Is it onomats?
Just say onomatopoeia. Just say
I
that.
I can't.
You're not gonna mess it up if you say onomatopoeia.
All right, here we go.
Often imitated, the biggest win ever. Never duplicated.
The comments, I'm not ready.
Oh, the original. Is it going to be any different this week?
I don't think so, man. DLE Kamel here. K-pause. I just forgot what I was gonna say.
Circus here coming at you. First tournament, like, all right, Can Hawk, take a bag, search a card. Man, I'm cruising. This is great. Join us each week as we track decks and see how they perform in tournaments around the community. This is the DLE Power Rankings.
What's up, everybody? Circus here coming at you with this week's Power Rankings video. This week, a ban list came out, but it was pretty late in the week, so we have some tournaments pre-ban list and post-ban list, but we always include all of them into the Power Rankings because that's what happened this week, and we like to report on what happened. We got Kamel here with us this week because he loves to report too, so how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, and yeah, guys, we're going to be taking a look at basically the stuff like the end of this meta next week. Really expect the full new meta with the new ban list to kick in.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that. So if you're new to the series and you don't know what we're doing here, every week we track decks as they're played in tournaments throughout the community, and then we rank them based on how they place in those tournaments. So if a deck gets a first place finish, it gets 6 points. A second place finish is 4 points. A top 4 is 2 points. And a top 8 is a single point.
That's right, Circus. And to keep the Power Rankings consistent, all the tournaments on the Power Rankings have to have the same format. That being rounds of Swiss into a top cut, and the deck format being one deck with a side deck where you can side in skills.
Yeah, and the tourneys that met that criteria this week, there were a lot of them. The Battle Phase series, the Meta series, the Draft Bi-Weekly, the Dark World Legacy, the Draft and Duel Links Pro Invitational Tournament, and the Me Maker Cup. So plenty of data this week, and you're not even going to believe how many decks made it into the Power Rankings.
And as always, if you want guaranteed access to all Battle Phase series tournaments, all you have to do is become a channel member on YouTube or a channel subscriber on Twitch. You can notice Battle Step is there. The name has changed. That is our Monday $2 entry tournament.
Yep, so make sure to check that out, and let's get right into it and check out number 5.
Number 5.
That was absolutely gross, dude.
Stick and Chair Dark Lords.
Coming in 5th place for the second week in a row is Stick and Chair Dark Lords. Now, it's hard to compare the conversion rates, everything to last week because there's so many more tournaments this week, but overall representation only at 56, which isn't really that high for a deck making it into the top 5 in the Power Rankings, but a pretty good conversion rate at 11%.
Yeah, the deck is still seeing play mainly just from those, top players who did see a lot of success with it in the last KC Cup. However, its participation has more than doubled, and it has maintained a very good conversion rate. Again, the deck is just doing so well right now off the fact that a lot of the decks in the meta are not built to survive Dark Lords, and now Dark Lords have added threats to them, which are these easily accessible Aziz monsters, Evilsaur Ouroboros, we mentioned before. It is absolutely ridiculous. Having streamed a tournament, this card rips apart pretty much every deck in the meta, and you have such easy access to it with Valhalla and your Star Seraph engine. A lot of more people are realizing how to counter it. A lot of the engine falls apart when you cannot make a 3 material Aziz monster. So if you only leave them with 2 monsters and they can't special summon anymore, that hurts them drastically.
Now, there was a 3-way tie for 5th place this week. Dark Lords getting a win in the Meta Weekly, so stay tuned if you want to see who the other 2 were. But before we get to that, we're going to take a look at number 4.
Number 4.
Tristan goes in direct. This could be it for the water deck.
Noble Knights.
Moving up 4 spots this week from number 8 is Noble Knights. We almost thought this deck was dead, and then the ban list came out and everybody said it was dead, but you can see representation is still nice and strong, but the conversion rate, I guess, is what we're used to seeing when a deck gets played this much.
Yeah, Noble Knights coming off of a week of really poor tournament performance, which I believe was mostly in part due to the fact that it did very poorly in the KC Cup. And that is usually what we see in the week afterwards. People play what they know is doing well or what seemed the most consistent. That's where the spike in Stick and Share Dark Lords came from. But Noble Knights, of course, there is news of the entire deck changing. I don't even think this is not even a version of the deck that's going to be legal in the future. Of course, Noble Knights lost access to Balance, which is their best in slot skill, and they lost also access to Restart. Noble Knights basically can't use any consistency skill now, so they're going to have to look to other avenues. So I think that is going to be what you have to look forward to for Noble Knights. Nothing in the deck itself was changed, but those skills is really what gives Noble Knights its consistency right now, and that's something huge that they're not going to have after this week.
Now, one of these wins that I did get, I got 2 wins this week. One of those was on Friday, so it was post ban list, and it did take second place in Battle Phase Saturday, which was post ban list as well. So maybe the deck is not dead after all.
Number 3,
Oh my god, he gets to draw a card. Must be nice.
Desperado.
Dropping 2 spots down to number 3 this week is Desperado with 27 points. It took first place last week with 28 points, so definitely a much more competitive week, and it did get a win in Battle Phase EU. But look at that representation. 131 people playing the deck with an 11% top 8 conversion rate. That's really good.
And, it's just what people don't like to see. Desperado is still doing very good, and hopefully it is the last week that something like this occurs. They're able to maintain such a high participation and representation and conversion rate in the top cut.
I think most of this stuff is pre-ban list too. I'm pretty sure most of these tournaments are.
Yeah, I would say all of them are pre-ban list. So, I would not expect to see Desperado after this week. They were the receivers of some pretty harsh nerfs, misjudge and head judging going to 2, along with Cup of Ace and Master of Destiny being completely changed. So I think all of the core components of the deck are really destroyed.
Funny enough, this guy Necromancer, he won a tournament last week with this deck. I didn't really have to change any of the graphics, so thank you for that, buddy. Let's move on to number 2 and see who did not take the top spot this week.
Number 2,
Abyss Dweller, swing, 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 and that's it. Nothing else.
the Water Deck.
Coming in number 2 this week is the Water Deck. Now, it has the same amount of points as the first place finisher, but this one, the Water Deck only had 1 tournament victory, whereas first place has 3 tournament victories. I wonder who it's going to be this week, Kamel. We'll have to wait and see, but Water Deck, 158 people playing the deck this week. Top 8 conversion rate of 9%. That's pretty good for that much representation.
That's probably the best for an Xyz deck we've seen in a while, and probably the best this week. I remember Desperado probably had around that much last week. But the Water Deck did do very well this week. Congrats to Huge D for beating Noble Knights in the finals. And I think that's pretty important. The Water Deck is built to survive against these insane decks like Desperado and Noble Knights. So now that those decks are moving out of the meta, I think Water Deck is going to be pretty dominant. I do think it has a pretty good matchup against almost every other deck that's going to be in the meta now. You think Blue Eyes, Onomatopoeia, they have more tools at their disposal than those decks, I believe.
What I like about the newer decks like Water Deck is they're fun decks to play, and if you get beat by them, you're like, oh, I got outplayed. It's not such a big deal. It's not like when you lose to Desperado. It's like, oh, I lost to a coin toss. They stole my card, and then it was over. Whereas this,
everything in the deck is working together. It's working. So also keep an eye out for those new box cards. Want to see how they affect the updated list of Water Deck.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see for next week. All right, now this is what everybody's been waiting for. The number 1 deck. Who could it be?
Number 1,
Exceed Shokan.
Onomats.
Coming in number 1 this week is Onomatopoeia.
That's right. This deck is doing great. After its KC Cup run, all of these decks have an increased representation since then, and I want to say things are going to be getting really good for this deck because a lot of these control decks that this deck is built to succeed against, right? It's built against, this deck is hyper-teched to get you through that back row and get you through your first Xyz play right away so that your opponent doesn't have time to set up back row again. And now that these decks, again, like Noble Knights and Desperado, are going away, this is going to be able to run over a lot of these other decks so much easier.
And with the new box, so far not seeming like it has much in it to add to the meta. I think it's just going to be the water deck and onomatopoeia just going back and forth.
A lot of people also worried that onomatopoeia did not receive a nerf. They still have access to Hate Grenade. And yeah, this goes to show I do think that this deck is going to need Hate Grenade to, deal with the back row decks that still are in the meta, Water deck to some extent. They can't deal with that back row in that deck or in Blue Eyes. So Hate Grenade is going to be a go-to card for this deck for a while to come.
All right, so there you guys go. Was that any surprise? I didn't think so, but I think we know what the meta is going to be for a little bit. We'll take a look at the overall list here in a minute, but you'll be surprised how many decks made it this week. So let's do the at a glance first. So overall representation. Sorry, the numbers are so small. The rating's so little.
Look at all those decks.
21 decks. Get your magnifying glass out. But look at that. Thunder Dragons on top with 162. Look at the bottom. Dino Rabbits. That's our boy Kuro Kodairu playing Dinos with what is it? Rescue Rabbits.
Invoke. Yeah, Rescue Rabbit invoked.
Yep. So there you go. If you look, number 12, Shiranui, not going away.
Oh, yeah, it's still there. Wow, Shiranui got a lot of points this week. What the heck? 27?
Well, that's representation, not points. Representation.
Oh, yeah.
But
People
still.
played. 27 people played. That's crazy.
Conversion rates, but look at this. Shiranui at 4%. I mean, come on now. Look at number 1, though. Evil Eye. Evil Eye.
Yeah,
that's how many tournaments where the Evil Eye can make it into this list. Because usually you have to play 20 times to make the list. So Evil Eye had 20 people playing it this week.
They were in the top 4 of Battle Phase Rising Sun.
Wow.
Yeah.
A deck that just won't go away. All right, and top 8 finishes this week. The water deck again is a little. I'm sorry, guys, but
my gosh,
look how many decks there are. I didn't feel like making 2 screens out of this. Sorry, but just hold your phone up close to your face. All right, and this is why everybody's here now. They knew who number 1 is. Now they want to see the DLE tier list because it's so accurate, especially post-ban.
Of course it is. You can't argue with it.
You can't. There's gonna be some changes obviously after this week because
my god,
this is what happened this past week. So I see Noble Knights, or I'm sorry, Desperado is tier 2. Get them out of here. They were tier 2 last week. They're not gonna be tier 2 this week.
It's great, dude. The Xyz decks are at the top. This is what the tier list should look like.
Right. I mean, you get Desperado out of there. I'm pretty comfortable with everything else.
Yeah. Well, after this week, I would say that that is how things are going to look. Last week, we talked about Triamids. Even our road decks becoming one of the more prominent decks in the meta. And on our ban list video, we discussed that as well. I do believe this is Triamid's time. They're the only deck that can still utilize balance. They're in the meta. They are a control deck. They utilize balance. They're one of the decks that utilize balance the best in the meta, and they have a lot of good matchups now that Desperado and Noble Knights are gone. They would very easily just outmaneuver and negate them. Now, Triamids, they have a pretty sick gameplay loop, and they're going to be doing it on the higher tier decks pretty effectively now.
All right, and before we got here, let's look at the main list. There's the tournaments again, but look at this list again. It's going to be so tiny. I'm sorry, everybody, but this is how it shook out this week. A tie for first place. Automots had the tiebreaker with more victories. And then Stick and Chair Dark Lords, Thunder Dragons, Triamids, all at 15 points. Stick and Chair Dark Lords had a tournament victory. So that's why
I was really underperforming this week.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yusenju's at 12th place, man. Yusenju, what's up? Luna Lights.
I think Blue Eyes might not make as much of a comeback after the balance as people think.
No.
It is down just based off its matchups against other things in the meta. It is really struggling right now.
We always say this. It's one of those decks that comes in and it goes. It comes in and it goes. It was in for a month and now it's gone, baby. Just hang on your Blue Eyes deck. It will come back. Don't worry. They'll find some cards laying around in the back. They'll release them and they'll bring you back into the game.
Of course.
That's what happens when your boss monster is a normal vanilla card. All right, guys. We're gonna get out of here. I hope you like it. Don't forget to sub, because we are trying to hit 11,000. Is that what we're going for? We're going for 10. 10 first and then 11, right? But
we're definitely in 10. Make sure you check out all of our new box content. We've got a couple openings and some shorts on it, so please check out all of that.
Yes.
This box was really funny across the channel, so make sure you check it out.
Yeah, we'll see who came out on top, me or PDS. You'll have to wait and see. All right, we're going to get out of here. Make sure you get in the Discord because it's free. The tournaments are free. The new player help is free. I'm Circus. That's Kamel.
Peace out.
We'll see you next time.